our closet door makes beautiful music.
Right. Um,
And I farted.
that's what I thought. Okay. No, and everybody on the radio just caught the tail end of that. They didn't catch any of the beginning of that. They don't know. That's all you
Yay.
got. That's all right. Welcome back to the show. All right, I'm staying on point about this. Because it's huge news. The Ukrainians are announcing that they have taken back Kharkiv, one of the second biggest city in the biggest city the Russians had taken, other than Mariupol, and the second biggest in the country, I believe. Very important strategically, and also allows them to get those howitzers that America and France have given them within shooting range of the entire Russian border, meaning that the pushback has started and is going to be, I mean, it's ongoing. This is how
they think that they're just like, oh, okay, that's good.
yeah. This is what they've been
That's
pushing
rocket
for,
time.
right? And there was the Russian forces, the Ukrainian counterattack in the north continues to disrupt Russian supply lines, which choked off the area and allowed them to take back Kharkiv. The Russian forces did not conduct offensive operations in the Kharkiv direction. The main efforts were focused on preventing the advance of the troops in the area of the settlement of Vesele. The Ukrainian General Staff said on Friday the most amazing story of it is that I'm kind of amazed that it's Major General Kirilo Budanov, no relation to Boris Badenov, told Sky News he believed the Russian advances would completely stall over the summer. There's a lot of variance in story about what people think about how long this war will go on. On a practical sense, everybody who I know that was in Afghanistan or served in Iraq is saying 2 years. They have this mental note. And by the way, that has something to do with how our commanders on the ground dragged out what was going on in Afghanistan and Iraq as well. Overstating the opposition, undersupplying the push, and sort of an indecisive move forward over time, because there was no direct, like, if you bomb this city, we win. There was none of that in Afghanistan or Iraq. There was no, like, topple this and we're done. It was always an insurgency, ISIS, Al-Qaeda, that kind of stuff. So they have this mentality that this is going to grind on for a couple of years just kind of randomly. Whereas there's a really distinct ending for this, which is Russia gets out. That is a very distinct thing. And right now, the Ukrainians are basically shoving them eastward. And that's what they've been doing. They drove them out of the Kyiv. A lot of people, I think, forget how the Russians intended to take Kiev and failed miserably. Were pushed back north and back east out of that entire area. And now they are back below the lines they had in disputed territory before this all started. And so the Major General Kirilo Budanov told Sky News that he said that the Russians have basically dug in, but they're not moving forward at all. And he said the breaking point will be in the second part of August. Most of the active combat actions will have finished by the end of this year. As a result, we will renew Ukrainian power in all of our territories that we have lost, including Donbass and Crimea. The Ukrainians have recognized that the mistake they made last time around, and I think that the NATO countries and the non-NATO countries like Finland and Sweden made in 2014 was believing somehow that Russia was going to stop. Learning no lessons from Chechnya, learning no lessons from Georgia, learning no lessons from Aleppo, and certainly none from the original invasion of Donbass and Crimea. Everybody was like, well, they said they're going to stop, and that's that. And these are just the Russian ethnic territories. Never mind the fact that they, of course, stacked those areas with Russians after they took the area. So yes, it's sort of like if King George, when the colonies had been there, had said, well, our reason for seizing these territories from Native Americans, for example, was because there are a lot of ethnic English speakers in the colonies. You know what I mean? Like, if you think of it that way, it's just an absurd argument. It's ridiculous, right? And we're also not talking about a time of established nations either, because even that as an analogy, because as far as people in the world was concerned, there was woods and then there was our people. That was basically the earth by a lot of people's measures.
Yeah.
These are well-established borders with functioning countries with people getting on with their lives, trying to get a job as a dog walker while they started their app. Like in Ukraine, there was regular life happening there with an established border that they had recognized, that the Russians had allegedly recognized before this happened. So nobody is under the illusion now that Russia is going to stop. That even if they are stopped, even if they were like, okay, we stopped them here, we had peace negotiations, and they just get to keep Crimea, Donetsk and Luhansk and those areas, and they're gonna, that's that. We're gonna, well, okay, you guys win. We just don't want any more war. We're gonna stop it right here. No one believes that Russia wouldn't take that as a win and an excuse to reinforce those positions, move military into those areas because it is now officially their territory, the way they built it up on the border, and then push further into Ukraine in a year or two or three. There's no reason. And the guy who is holding the reins of the country while Vladimir Putin has surgery, by the way, weird. I like my conspiratorial tinfoil hat thing is kind of my spidey sense is buzzing a little bit in that right about the time Putin decides he's going to invade and take over Ukraine, he suddenly gets stomach cancer or whatever it is and has to have surgery and go under. And he's handing off the country, the power of the country, to a guy who is slightly younger than him, not much, but enough, who is more genocidal towards Ukrainians even than Putin is. It's one of his, it's not his, he's not handing it off to the prime minister. He's handing it off to one of his Security Council people. And at the same time, reports are saying that Xi Jinping has a brain aneurysm and is refusing surgery.
The chat says you're buffering a lot, Hal. You're
I
fine
am?
for me, but they say you're buffering.
That's very strange. Well, I apologize, guys. It might be a YouTube
they
thing, or
say.
it might be someplace.
It seems fine for me. There's a bit of a delay, but nothing too bad.
Okay. All right. Well, I basically will lay it out as crap internet in the hotel I'm in. So there might be moments of buffering, and I apologize. So don't be afraid to reload if that happens, guys. This is a crucial statement from the head of military intelligence for Ukraine saying we're taking back Donbass and Crimea. That's it. We let them have that area, and we kind of went, okay, no harm, no foul. Just don't keep moving. And so the shelling back and forth that's been going on since then has been about them not taking more territory. But they basically had said, well, they've got Crimea. They've got it. There's nothing we can do about it. That's done. After Russia's just unprovoked attack and this whole idea that, NATO provoked them nonsense, then I suppose they're allowed to invade Finland now. Before the papers signed. So this is a huge step in like Ukraine's future. Ukraine, if it is able to, and I believe it will be, able to claim back all of its territory, will be the largest country in Europe, with the largest grain fields in Europe, with the largest oil and natural gas reserves, the largest reserves of uranium, the largest reserves of titanium, the largest iron ore reserves in all of Europe. Now you're starting to see why Germany was kind of dragging its feet and not wanting to help so much, because they're literally going to be knocked down a peg if Ukraine is ever able to stabilize and become a functioning member of the European community. It would also shore up the euro and shore up their economic system in a way that they currently cannot do because they are resource dependent in a way that they would not be if Ukraine stabilizes, becomes a member of NATO so that it is safe and becomes able to trade evenly with Europe without any interference from Russian oligarchs trying to gut the system from within, which is what was going up all the way up to Yanukovych and into Poroshenko. So this is the fact that they're saying this, they've been bold from the beginning, and they're enraged at Russians for trying to take their country. There is every reason to believe that they will be successful, especially with the support they're getting from the United States, even with our own Rand Paul doing everything he can to deny the material support that the U.S. is going to give Ukraine. It won't stop it. It will only drag it on for a few days. The money that we have given Ukraine runs out late next week in terms of the material it buys, the food it buys for the for Ukrainians who are in Poland and other countries. We are helping them with food and shelter and medicine and around that area. That money runs out next week. If Rand Paul was successful at slowing this down more than that amount of time, which, by the way, is why they pushed up the vote, because they knew he would. Had they done it, with a regular timing, there would be a significant gap in that time. So it's a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth from Rand Paul. I don't think it will play out positively the way he thinks it does. I don't know why he thinks even the majority of Kentuckians think this is a good idea.
Whatever works out positively for Rand Paul.
Elections in Kentucky. He manages, because he rides on his father's name and his ridiculous faux independence streak. He manages. There is still a vein to be mined of anti-U.S. government sentiment in the right wing. I mean, there's always been one in the left, on the radicals of both sides, but there's enough of one threaded through, which is partly how Donald Trump got elected, that anything the government does is terrible. Like, born out of that Reagan thing, the 11 worst words, or you can hear is I'm from the government, I'm here to help you, which is absurd. Because one goes, the second question, of course, to Ronald Reagan would have been, then why are you signing emergency declarations for any state hit by a hurricane, an earthquake, or tornadoes? Are you a moron? Of course, that's not the worst thing people can hear. The worst thing people could probably hear at that time was, I'm from the Russian government, and I'm here to end you. That, one would think. But Rand Paul even said, and we've seen a bunch of hyper left-wingers run with this quote, that horseshoe overlap that these guys seem to have these days. Rand Paul saying that the U.S. government is the biggest purveyor of lies on the planet. And I had to immediately race to the interwebs and see if I had ever found a picture of Rand Paul in China. Because I got news for you, kids. You guys know I love Chinese culture. I studied Kung Fu for 27 years. I grew up watching martial arts films and fell in love. I became a Sinophiliac because of that. I have a bunch of Chinese and Taiwanese friends who live on the mainland, in Hong Kong, and in Taiwan. I deal with their geopolitics all the time in talking with them. I adore them. I love them dearly as human beings, but their government is horrifying. And an order of magnitude beyond every story you have ever heard about the CIA meddling in some place and how the CIA does the CIA stuff with the CIA and the rogue CIA and the CIA and cocaine and streets and blah, blah, blah. Everything you've ever heard about the CIA is...
If you see CIA enough, it doesn't even make sense anymore.
Right. It's toddler level compared to what the CCP does. It's and I can't stress that enough. And it's hilariously embarrassing that Rand Paul would even float the idea that the government he works in and has oversight of is apparently the biggest purveyor of liars, which I think is just him telling on himself. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk, live streaming at infotainmentwars.com. Like and subscribe. You can become a member on there now on YouTube. I think they're going to allow me to people to start gifting memberships like they do on Twitch, which is crazy. I don't know if that works yet. People will have to let me know in the chat if I'm even up. Yeah. We'll be back right after this.
Attention, attention, stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide.
So one of the the side stories that's going on, of course, is Russia's response to sanctions. That in the beginning they were like, your sanctions can't do anything to us. It's ridiculous. We will push back against those very things. Good. Philip Bittner is going to be joining us in a moment. He's joining us from. We'll try and get him in. And he's in a different place too. But we'll get him in. We'll get in Philip after the next news break, if that's cool.
There you go.
Because we're right now let me see if maybe I can bring him in right now. Why not? I might as well throw caution to the wind in this regard. My picture will disappear from the screen.
I always feel like there's a missing character in his name on there.
Nope, it's just the fact that there he is, and then I've got to sign off on myself and get myself on screen, and hopefully everybody will come in.
I'll have to call him Philly Pittner.
Yes. Philip, I don't know if you can hear us right now. He seems frozen. But he's in a new place. Oh, he went away and he'll be back.
Angry.
Right, it happens. All right, so we're going to try and get Philip in at the very least at the top of the next hour, live from Ukraine for this update. But have you ever had a Kami Cola, Johnny Million?
Kami Cola?
Have you ever had a Kami Cola?
It sounds delicious.
It's like a Coca-Cola, but not.
Uh-huh.
It apparently is less sweet, more herbally tasting, a little closer to, like, it's got a barley-esque, with a hint of vodka and chewing tobacco. I don't quite know. But apparently,
chewing tobacco.
Apparently the rampant disregard for international copyright that China has built its reputation on is spreading to Russia, as they have had their Coca-Cola has left, and they had a brewery, a bottling factory, or I don't know. Do you brew Coca-Cola? Mix, whatever. They had a mixing station there, big one, a processing plant that makes Coca-Cola, and the Russians have taken it over and barely changed the label, and now they are selling Komi-Cola, Komi, which everybody's calling Kami-Cola because of obvious secondary reasons to the Russians or whatever. No surprise, though, that the problem there we go. I think we can get Philip back in here with us. We'll see if he's joining us right now. And Philip, are you there? Can you hear us? Good sir. We see you. It's a little choppy, but there might be a delay. That happens. Philip, can you hear us? Philip, can you hear us? Nope. There he goes. He's trying again and again. It's all right. We'll get him in here. I'm not worried. I'm not afraid. So the sanctions themselves are creating havoc, obviously, on Russia's economy. And the idea was, if you'll recall, I want everybody to go in the Wayback Machine in your brain. Go back to all the talking points you heard in the week leading up to the invasion, where they weren't really going to do this, and we should do sanctions. Let's see if we can get Philip back in. He's trying to call in again. He's trying different techniques. There he is. We might be able to hear him. We'll see. I can see him, but he can't see us necessarily.
Yeah, I can hear you better.
Excellent. There he is, ladies and gentlemen.
I can hear you better.
Great. We can hear you, and you've got a lovely view out the window behind you, and it should be okay. So I was just saying.
Yeah, but
Say again, sorry.
Go ahead, Hal.
Okay. There'll be a delay. We'll deal with the delay. I'll leave pauses in. It'll be fine. But Phil, first of all, we're just glad you're alive, safe, and well, and all that. And you're live in Ukraine right now. I think he's in a different place. So I don't know are you in Lviv right now?
I am.
Or okay, good.
I had wanted to surprise you.
Uh-huh.
I had wanted to surprise you pleasantly, and I've gone and ruined it because of the technical difficulties. But welcome to Kiev.
Right.
Welcome to
Oh, he's
Kiev.
in Kiev. Look at that. That's fantastic. The liberated city of Kiev, the long liberated city of Kiev. Now we've got about 5 minutes before this break, and we'll get into some stuff after the top of the hour with Phil. But I wanted to kind of tee up what I wanted to talk about, which is if you go back in the Wayback Machine of how people were talking about this in the early 3 weeks of this war and of choice by Russia. Let's be abundantly clear. There was no gun to Russia's head. There was no direct threat. They did not respond to being fired upon. There was no 9/11 moment that they can blame. They simply were they got nervous and decided to kill the person next door. Yes, right. Just Nazis, and we got a Nazi right now. So we do not see any Nazis, but we're going to look for them and find them. And when we do, boy, they're in trouble. So then the week before them leading up to this, and then the 2 weeks in, the story being that Russia has amassed an enormous amount of they've got a chokehold on Europe because of oil and gas. They've got control over Europe because of especially Germany. And they will forever. This is even getting off this will take years, at the most a year, or at least a year, if not many years, for them to extract themselves. And that financially they have amassed a pile of gold and currency, and they're going to force everybody to buy oil in rubles. So they're going to shore up the ruble, and they've got this strategy that'll allow them to sort of fortify their economy against the U.S. and international sanctions, and that's really the smart ploy that they have. And also, they've got an enormous military. It's the second in the world. As I like to say, they've got the number 2 military in the world by all standards. It's not the second best, but it is definitely the number 2 military in the world.
Number 2, baby.
It is and the story was they've got every ability to basically create a fortress financially for themselves, and bam, they're going to show the Western world what war looks like. And here we are 76 days into it, depending on how you look at it. And those predictions not playing out very well. They're playing out like Ray Dalio's view of Chinese hegemony and the economic structures of the world circa 2019. And it gets worse by the day. Now, I broke, like we talked about the story breaking, Phil, and we got a couple minutes. And like I said, hold your thoughts until the top of the hour so I can really get the lead into this. But the fact that Ukraine has taken Kharkiv and have protected it, basically driven back all Russian forces around Kharkiv, which is enormous, not just for the city and the safety of the people there and the fact that they've reclaimed one of their cities, but strategically, all those weapons that the United States have given, including, I think, of the 148 howitzers we've sent them, 146 have arrived and are in use, quote, in theater close to the east, and can shoot something like 12 miles farther than anything the Russians have. And that, almost singularly, beyond that and the Phoenix kamikaze drones and the other stuff, is 100% why you are seeing the Russians now officially holding less territory than they did in the disputed territories before the war started. And the Russians pulling back in some areas all the way to the Russian border. It's enormous. It's incredible. It's and the announcement by the head of the Ukrainian intelligence that they're not going to stop until they have Donbass and Crimea, because the lesson they learned from 2014 is never again. We gave Russia the benefit of the doubt once, and it was
so much to talk about.
Yes, is so much to talk about, and we're going to take a break, and then we got the news at this hard break. We'll be back right after this with Phil live in Kiev in Ukraine. We'll be back right after this.